Sweet. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Clocked Off podcast. What we're going to do is we're going to have a chat over a few drinks. Today I've got a very special guest, a very inspirational guest. Troy, how you going, mate?
I'm good, son. How are you?
Good, thanks. How do I say your last name?
Hawkins.
Hawkins. All right. So Troy Hawkins. So today our drink of choice, CC Dries.
Beautiful.
Let's give that a crack.
I'd have to put this down.
Yeah.
Good start.
Yeah. Cheers, mate. CC always does the trick.
Absolutely.
All right. So yeah, today I've got a special guest, Troy Hawkins. We met at GSAC.
Yes.
We met last year. Unfortunately, I wasn't there for too long, but we used to work a lot of Saturday mornings. We had a lot of time to chat and stuff like that, and gotten to know Troy over our shifts. So today I've brought Troy on because Troy has a wealth of experience in the industry, in personal training and in the disability space, but also he's an athlete. So we might delve into that as well. Not just a few actual sports actually. So we might have a chat about that. And then maybe a bit of a game show segment at the end, as always. So I guess to start off with, Troy. So you're actually I'll start off. I'll kick it over to you. Can you tell us what you do for a living?
Yep. So I am a personal trainer.
Yep.
I did my certificate 3 and 4 in personal training probably when I was I think 19, 20.
Yep.
And I'm 32 now, so it's about 13 odd years ago.
Yeah.
And I got into the industry pretty much straight away. So I've been a personal trainer effectively for about 13 years now.
Veteran in the game. So you must have seen a lot of things come and go.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep. Maybe a lot of exercises that might have been different back then, but maybe some that still stayed the same.
Yeah, absolutely. And going from gym to gym as I have, I've worked in probably about 4 or 5 different gyms over my career.
Yeah.
And just seeing the vibe and the atmosphere. Every gym's, of course, always going to be different.
Yeah.
They're trying to differentiate themselves from another gym, especially if they're close by.
Yeah.
So it's good to see the different atmosphere and the different ways of training people and the different things different gyms would actually focus on as well.
Yeah. Okay. For sure, because you definitely have you've worked at a few different gyms. I trained at the same gym for like 7-8 years, and then I worked at GSAC. And GSAC, for me anyway, from my perspective, was a very nice gym, very clean. But what about from some of the gyms that you've worked in? Were they always sort of like GSAC, where it's very clean? There's a lot of friendly people, or was it very different from gym to gym?
I think it's very different from gym to gym. I started at a YMCA up in Ashburton.
Okay, yep.
And that was my first job that I ever got, which was awesome. And that was a very small gym.
Yep.
Again, it was a multi-purpose centre, so they had a bigger, they had the pool there, they had the sports stadium and everything like that. So the gym was rather small.
Yeah.
So it catered to a certain type of person, which is great.
Sure.
And that's what their target market was. Yeah. And that was a good experience to get myself into it. Then, I moved from there, I worked side by side with Genesis in Cranbourne, which was a rental gym, which is a completely different experience there and a completely different mindset there. Naturally, you're paying them to work there. So you're not actually an employee, you're a subcontractor. And so you've got to work to get your money. So, that environment, it was a really good environment. We were all friendly with each other. We weren't really that, we weren't trying to steal clients off each other or anything like that. But, in that sort of environment, when push comes to shove, sometimes you've got to get a bit, not nasty, but you've got to get a bit competitive. Yep. And you've just got to do what you have to do to earn your money, especially when you're starting, X amount of money behind each week. Yeah. So that was a bit more competitive. As I said, not nasty. We did really help each other out as best we could. We had a good group of people that specialised in different things. So we had the good friendship there and the good connections where we could actually handle people over. So it was never really a nasty thing at all. Yeah. Then I was there for about 2 to 3 years, maybe 4 years. And then I just started struggling. I couldn't, again, I wasn't very inexperienced at that time, and I just wasn't putting in the work to be able to work in that, to succeed in that environment. At the time then, I was also renting. I moved out of home for the first time, so I was paying rent at a gym, plus paying rent at my home.
Double rent.
So I was paying double rent.
Yeah, right.
And I was starting, $400, $500, $600 in the hole at the start of the week.
Yeah.
So I was always starting back from a lot further. So, and naturally at that time, I just didn't put the work in to be able to make that X amount of money plus a living.
Okay.
So naturally, I moved from there and I went to KCR, which is in opposite Fountain Gate Shopping Centre in the southeast. And that's again a multi-purpose centre. It's had the pool. It's got the the gym there as well.
Yeah.
And it's more of an employee type salary based gym. So it's a bit more comfortable. I got paid by the hour. I got paid per client that came in. And I was able to get my confidence back up there. Worked really well with the people there as well. Again, very friendly, very great, good environment there. And got on well with everyone. And, again, we were able to handball people to each other if need be. Yeah. So I got my confidence back up there, got my experience up there. Then it got to a point where I needed to move on, where I needed to learn more. And I wasn't learning more in that environment. So I needed to push myself out a little bit more, which was great. So then I actually got a studio who took it over from someone I knew in the industry who wanted to give it up. And then again, I go back into a studio environment where I'm paying rent again. Did that well for X amount of time with a business partner. Then that just didn't work out. Again, I wasn't putting in the work in. I couldn't pay the bills and whatnot. I then moved back into home at the same time to save money from renting. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I transitioned into, luckily my dad allowed it, where I was able to work from home. Yeah, okay. So I effectively got my equipment, took my equipment, and I set up the second half of the pergola, fixed all that up with my equipment. And then I've been, for the last probably 4 or 5 years, I've been training out of there, running my own business there. When that sort of started, I was also working at GSAC, where I met yourself for a couple of years after that. And I was there for about 3 years as well. Yeah. I got to a point where, as we all know, COVID hit in 2020. A lot of places shut down, including our gym. And luckily for me, the disability industry, which is what my niche is, people with disabilities like myself. I'm born with Spina Bifida, which we'll talk about in a second. Luckily, the government allowed us to keep working, allowed the disability community to stay open. Yeah. Which allowed them to legally come into my gym and still get the work that they needed to get done. Yeah. So I was still legally allowed to work, which was amazing. So I was able to keep that going through COVID, where I couldn't work in the gym with yourself. Yeah. And then from that point, the gym slowly opened up, and it got to a point where my business was going really well, and I didn't need that extra income to support me. Yeah. So, I think I left there in August of last year. Yeah. So, even in a 10 to 12 year career, I was back and forth between a lot, whereas now I think the last 12 months or so I've started to really come into my own and start doing my own thing.
That's great, and that's absolutely like an inspirational story. Sometimes, maybe because I only just met you like last year, I'm like, oh, you're doing really successful, but what I didn't know maybe before then was all the experiences, the ups and downs you had to go through to get to that point. But no, definitely congratulations for building yourself up to a very good point in your business, a very successful business. You also were able to go get a house as well.
Yeah, correct. So again, luckily through COVID, where a lot of people unfortunately struggled, I was able to buy a house in 2020. I'll buy a house in land package, which is coming to fruition. I believe that the build will finish in 2 months' time.
Yeah, nice.
So that's been 2 years in the making, which is awesome. But that again, the whole journey led up to this point. Yeah. My whole point of moving out of that rental property to move back home, which Dad allowed, which was awesome. Yeah. Was to save money there and build for property. And obviously now I've got my partner who we've been together for 4 years now. So I've got to help provide a future for her as well. And, a house over a roof over my head and whatnot. So that was a good why for me. Yeah. And it was a good working point, something good to work towards, which allowed me to keep moving forward within 2020. As you know, that was a very tough period for a lot of people, and it still is now with COVID. So it gave me a really strong why and a really strong reason to do what I was doing and push forward and get through that tough period. Yeah.
Oh no, that's great. So you mentioned you were sort of on two different, I guess, styles. Two different income styles, I guess. I'm not sure what the correct term is, but so you had your sort of like hourly rate versus a subcontractor. So for those who are potentially maybe interested in getting to the PT world, what are the pros and cons of both of them?
Yeah, so if you look at the subcontracting side of things, where most gyms are heading down these days, especially if they're sort of not commercial gyms as well, you've got to put the work in. You know, you're starting X amount of dollars in the hole, in the negatives to begin with, before you even walk in the door, or when you sign that contract. So naturally, you've got to put the work in yourself. You've got to try and find the clientele yourself. If you've got the good environment, you'll get help from the people around you, and you start to network. So essentially, you've got to do the work yourself. You've got to find your own clients. So that's, people call that you can call that a negative if you want, but then if you were able to do it the right way and you were able to get the clientele over, there you can make unlimited amount of money. It depends. You can work as much as you want. You can charge as much as you want. Yeah. So therefore, the sky's the limit. Yeah. And you can earn as much as you want, depending on how you structure things and how much you want to work. Yeah. The flip side of things, when I went to a YMCA or GSAC with yourself, that was based on an hourly rate, and then you get a salary or a wage effectively. You're basically a bit more confined to their programs, to their atmosphere, and to their way of doing things. Yeah,
so it's almost like a brand or like a way of doing things.
Yeah, their brand. So you're helping building their brand. Yeah. And they will support you as well. They will give you more support, generally speaking, because you're working on their brand. They're more likely to give you extra help with clientele or hours or shifts or whatever the case might be. So it's a lot safer. But the positive side is you're a lot safer, and you've got the hourly rate or wage that a lot of people will have. But then the negative is that you're going to be limited, and there's going to be a low ceiling on you to how much you can actually earn. Yeah. And to me, again, that there's pros and cons to both of them, of course, and they both can create burnout depending on how you do it. So it's a matter of choosing which one's right for you and getting that balance right.
Yeah, right. And if you were to recommend one of them to maybe someone who's starting out, which source of income would you recommend, or there's no real answer to that?
It's more of a personal opinion. Okay. Yep. So there's probably no right or wrong answer. Yeah. So generally speaking, the safe way to do it is to start in a commercial gym where you're safe and you've got your guaranteed money, and then you build yourself out. Yeah. Okay. And then once you get your experience up, your confidence up, your networking, your clientele, then you can branch out. So that's generally a building base that most people will work off. But I'm actually glad and happy that I did it the other way around. Yeah. So I worked through Genesis alongside a YMCA as well in Ashburton. But my main business, of course, was going to be the Genesis side of things, because I was contracting and I was paying them to work. Yeah. So naturally, I did it side by side. But then at the same time, I effectively did the contracting before I went into solo wages. So I took the hard path first, and I'm actually really glad that I did that, because it taught me a lot. It taught me what I wasn't doing, and it taught me what I needed to do to get myself out of the holes that I put myself into. So look, I recommend both of them. They're both great. It all depends on how much work you're willing to put in. And whether you have the networking and the social strategy to be able to bring clients towards you. And if you feel like you need help in that area, then it might be best to go to like a YMCA or a salaried based gym where you've got the easy money there and you can slowly build yourself up. Yeah. It really depends on how far you want to push yourself out of your comfort zone as well.
Yeah. No, that all makes sense, because definitely when I started out, being a trainer, I probably wasn't as comfortable putting myself out there and like trying to advertise myself as well. So something like GSAC was like a bit more, easing into it, definitely a lot more comfortable. Whereas if maybe I was a subcontractor, I'd probably feel a lot more nervous trying to advertise myself and my services and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely some good points there. Speaking of GSAC, we had a lot of Saturday shifts and stuff like that. And
lot of fun.
Yeah, lots of fun, waking up at like 4, 5, 6 in the morning, opening the gyms up, saying hello to everyone, keeping on brand. So, over the years that you've been working at GSAC, what are some of the pet peeves you've had being on the gym floor, or maybe with like some clients or even maybe let's not talk about workers, but some people on floor.
Yeah, well, I get my big thing, not GSAC specifically, but just working as an employee, is you can't work on yourself. It's harder to work on yourself. Yeah. So you're always pushing their brand. You're always pushing what they want you to do. You're always pushing their atmosphere, their branding, their vision, their image, their perceptions. Yeah. You know, they would always tell us that perception is key. Yeah. You know, one of the things we did a lot, you know, okay, for example, with GSAC, their biggest thing was cleanliness in the gym, making sure their presentation was great. Yeah. And it was effectively perfect. Yeah. Because they were government gyms, so it's not actually GSAC's image. Yeah. GSAC are holding the government's image. Yeah. Now, that's not a knock in any way. That's the way they've done it. Yeah. And so all their employees are working towards the government's image effectively, which was Glenara. Yep. I can't. When I left GSAC, knowing the journey that I've been on, I came to a realization that I actually, and this is a negative on my behalf, I'm actually not a good employee. Okay. Because I feel like if I'm not working on myself, then what am I doing? Okay. So that's a negative on my behalf because it's a selfish thing. I'm doing what I want to do for me, and it's a very selfish thing. Yeah. Which a lot of people look at as a negative. I look at that as a positive because I'm always working on myself. Yeah. Now, when you're working for someone else, you can't do that. Yeah, it's or you're very limited in how you do that. Yeah. So therefore, you've got to work for somebody else, for GSAC or for all the other gyms out there, the YMCAs that do it. Yeah. So you have to be mindful that you can't just do whatever you want to do. Mm. You have to make sure you're doing what they want you to do effectively. Yeah. And I guess for you, it was probably just time for you to spread your wings a bit and get out there, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. And it was the same thing when I worked at a YMCA. You know, I knew that I was not learning, and I'm not sure where I heard this quote, but basically there was a quote that I've had for most of my career where basically says, if you stop learning at one place, you need to leave. You know, if you're the smartest person in the room, what are you doing in that room? You always need to be effectively the dumbest person in that room because then that gives you the more space to learn and grow. Again, so you use your analogies. You can say, you know, big fish in a small pond, or you know, things like that. I just felt like I wasn't learning, or to put this on me, and it is on me. I wasn't willing to learn. Yeah, sure. So I have to put myself in a position where I'm actually willing to learn. Yeah. So that's how I see the two different places, and I guess the pet peeve for me, it's got nothing to do with the gym itself. It's more my perception of myself. Yeah, sure. What am I doing here, and why aren't I learning, and why aren't I doing what I need to do? Yeah. Which comes down to my self-value, and it comes down to my confidence, self-confidence. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, those are some good points there. Maybe to switch gears a bit. I know during my time at GSAC, had you know, we had to keep things clean. So when people left plates on the floor and shit, that fucking pissed me off. Like that irritated me because I'm the one cleaning it up. Correct. Whereas back then, when I was you know, if I was just training at the gym, like I always try to be a bit respectful, but you don't really care about that. But once you're working and you got to clean that shit up, you get a bit pissed off. You got to clean everything up, and you definitely get a good a good appreciation of it. Yeah, when you come from the other side. Yeah, 100%. And unfortunately for you and a couple of other my co-workers, when you're on the floor with me, I can't physically lift that. Yeah. So everything that gets left over, you know, you're working with me. You're sort of saying, "Oh shit, hang on, Troy can't do it. I have to go and bloody pick that shit up." No, that's all right. That's the joys of working with me as well. What are some other annoying shit that people do on the floor? So one for me is fucking annoying when you have people dropping the shit out of weights and it's fucking 100 kilogram deadlift. Like, you can lower that shit. Like, that's not heavy. Relax, that's 100 kilograms. What are some of the things that annoy you on the gym floor? Well, things like that. If you're strong enough to lift it, you're strong enough to put it down. Yeah. Sorry. I'm drinking here, so I should, it's getting... That's all right. Take your time. So, yeah, you know, that's definitely one. I think I became immune to it over the journey. I hear it and I go, whatever, cool. Yeah. It used to really annoy me early on in my career. Yeah. But from my point of view, and again, this is a selfish thing on my behalf. It's like you work for a gym, and the gym members act as if they work for you. Oh, yeah, you work for them.
Yeah.
It's like, well, why the hell aren't you doing this? Why the fuck aren't you doing that?
Yeah.
The amount of times that, especially at a GSAC, for whatever reason, members would come up to us and say, well, why aren't you walking around?
Yeah.
This is your job. Why aren't you doing this?
Yeah.
As if they knew what our job was. You know? They may talk to our bosses and the bosses that we have or will have or whatever might actually tell them what our job is. And that's fine. That's a conversation they can have. But then they think they can tell us what to do.
Yeah.
But in reality, if we don't work here, you guys can't come in.
Yeah.
Effectively. So a lot of self-entitlement.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of the pet peeves.
Fucking brats.
Yeah. Oh, I fucking hate it. You know, it's one of my biggest pet peeves, just in general, regardless of work or whatnot. So just in life.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of self-entitlement, especially in this day and age with COVID, especially. So yeah, that's pretty shit.
Yeah. Another thing I found pretty annoying on the gym floor is like when people did like accessory works with like cable machines and stuff, and things were like freaking half like the other side of the gym, and they just leave shit like everywhere. Like, I don't know, if you were willing to walk it all the way there, you can definitely walk it back. You know, keep it a bit clean. So I'm not sure if it was just because we were trained to keep it clean or something like that, but yeah, definitely a few things that were kind of annoying as a new trainer. Yeah, being on the other side.
Well, that's right. You know, on that one, we definitely were trained to pick up after people. Yeah. But then that also comes back into the members' self-entitlement, going, well, you have to do this, I'm not going to do it. Yeah. So again, it's responsibility. It's basic responsibility. You use it, fucking put it away. Yeah. So
yeah, for sure.
Again, it comes back to from me self-entitlement. Yeah.
So yeah. So you've finished up at GSAC now. You're running your own business. I think maybe for the people who aren't familiar with like opening up a business and stuff like that, what are some of the prerequisites of opening your own business? Like, you know, particularly like ABN or like, you know, equipment, stuff like that. Yeah. What are some things you had to check the box with when you're opening your own business?
Yep. So the basics is your ABN. Yep. And you apply for that, you can get that $90 or something like that. And then, of course, you're going to have whatever insurances you're going to work under. So for me, for example, I've got my public liability and my public indemnity. Yep. They're your two building blocks. They're your two basics that you must have. And then it depends on the clientele you want to work with, depends on how you want to run your business, where, how, why, you know, all that sort of thing. And then you sort of research into there and look into what you need. But yeah, from my perspective, the main things for me was the ABN and then your public liability and indemnity. Yeah. And then in our industry, of course, we need our first aids and that sort of thing as well.
Yeah. And that's, what's first aid? Like every 3 years or something?
First aid's every 3, then I think CPR's every year.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, ABN, insurance, first aid, and then obviously stuff like getting your certificate and stuff like that.
Yeah, correct.
Yep. And then I think the other thing that people don't realize is gym equipment is fucking pretty expensive. So did you buy all your equipment like straight away, or did you collect some over time? How did you eventually build the gym that you have at home?
I got really lucky. I got extremely lucky. So I was working at KCR and I was at the point where I needed to get out and spread my wings. I was lucky, very lucky, that another trainer who I had known of in my circles wanted to get rid of his small studio for whatever his reasons were, and I lived in the area, and he sent out a message to myself and probably a handful of other people wanting to know if they wanted to work beside him, and then he eventually left and I took over. Now, again, as a part of that whole deal, I got all of his equipment quite cheap. Okay. So I was really lucky in that sense. It was only probably about 6 months to a year old.
Yeah.
So it was still pretty much brand new. Yeah. And I got it. He gave it all to me for a very low price because I think he just wanted to get out of there for whatever reason. And so yeah, I got really lucky. And then over the last 8 years or so, I've slowly increased the amount of equipment that I've had and you know, put that obviously through the business and added to what I've got.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
So yeah, very lucky in that regards.
Yeah.
But, to your question, though, it can be quite expensive. Yeah. The way I would be doing it now, if I had nothing, would be to see what I'm looking at around me now. buy one or two small basic things that you need, or the essentials, and then you build from there.
Yeah. Yeah, because I guess you don't need all the fancy stuff, and especially if you've got to consider the space if you have as well. If it's like a small studio, like for example, this place is a garage gym, so I'd have a lot of space to put like machine press and leg presses and stuff like that.
That's it, and it's a single garage too. So
yeah, yeah,
it's even smaller. So.
Yeah, yeah. So there's not a lot of room, so you definitely got to get the equipment that's very I guess flexible, or can do a lot of things at once, like a jack of all trades type of equipment.
Yeah, exactly. Like again, with the house that I'm building now, which hopefully I'll move into in let's say 3 months' time.
Yeah.
I've got the double garage there, which was my prerequisite for
nice.
building a house, so I could still run the business from home.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to become an employee again.
Yeah.
And so again, I've got my basic equipment. I've got my multi-purpose squat racks, and I'll buy one more piece of equipment, which will be a multi-purpose cable machine. Yeah. And then I'll bits and pieces around that.
Yeah. I wish I actually got a cable machine. I got this as a gift afterwards, but I wish I had like a really good set, like 2 sides. You can do so many different exercises, but I guess that's in hindsight. So I'll just have to make do what I have now.
Well, that's it. But then at the same time, depending on obviously your education and people's knowledges and the way they improvise, and something about especially living with my disability that I've been born with, I've always had to modify everything that I've done. So I can switch my mind very quickly and go, okay, cool, I haven't got that, but I can do this with that. Yeah. So as long as you can have a sort of open mind and you're willing to modify things and you're willing to work, turn on a dime and change things when you need to, you don't need much. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And you'll save a hell of a lot of money.
yeah, definitely. So being just creative and being able to save money, win-win all around.
Absolutely.
I'll get back to, speaking about exercises and how you've had to modify and stuff like that. But first of all, I want to trace back a bit. You earlier you mentioned that you have a condition. Yep. Can you explain what that is and how it sort of impacts your daily life?
Yeah, so I was born with a lower back degenerative condition called Spina Bifida. Yeah. When I was born, from what I've been told and the memories that my parents have, I was born with a hole in my lower back. So basically the spine protruded from the skin. There's 3 types of Spina Bifida. Without going into detail because I can't pronounce some of them. I've got the worst or the most severe kind.
Yeah, okay.
Where basically I believe you've got like something along the lines of like a 90% chance of dying at birth. If you don't get it treated. Now, luckily, my parents were onto it pretty much straight away. Back when I was born in 1989, the medical situation was completely different back then to 2022. So again, you take that into consideration. The mortality rate was probably higher. So again, I was really lucky with the hospital that I was at, where I was born. Obviously, with my parents, what they did for me, and I was basically having surgery almost effectively when I was born. So with the spine protruding from the skin, if you can imagine it, for those who have the knowledge of the body, it protrudes through everything. So it pushes through the nerve endings, the muscles, the skin, the blood capillaries, and everything else that's there. So my nerves were severed in the lower back, and if you looked at my lower back now, you can see exactly where that was, and where I basically have to teach the muscles to work again from scratch, which I'm at 32, I'm still doing. So born with spina bifida. I've had probably about 25 to 30 different surgeries over my life. At 32, so I'm almost averaging 1 a year.
That's crazy, yeah.
And to put that into perspective, my last surgery was when I was 21, roughly. Yeah. And between the ages of 13 and 21, I've only had 3 surgeries. Again, I don't know the number of surgeries I've had. My parents don't know. I asked my dad, asked my mum. They'll give you we'll all give you 3 different answers. Yeah. So you assume 25, 30, whatever the number is. And 3 of those were after the age of 13. Now, I lived in Cranbourne, which I still do, so in the southeast suburbs. And back then, the best hospital for me was the Royal Children's Hospital in the city. So you can imagine with 13 different, with 20 plus, 25, 30, whatever the surgery count is, before the age of 13, you can imagine the stress and the impact it's got on my parents and my family, for that matter, to drive me from 50 minute drive, where almost weekly, I understand, at different times in my life, to go from Cranbourne all the way to the city, just for an appointment. Yeah. Because back then, the medical situation was the way it was, and that's where they took me. So you can imagine the stress that it put on my parents, my brother at the time, my sister. I've got a younger sister as well. So when she eventually came along 7 years later, you imagine what they went through and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's one of those situations where you just start to, as someone at 32 years old who understands it now, you start to appreciate, what the family and especially the parents had to have gone through back then.
Yeah. No, that's great to hear that you've had such a strong family and support around you, because like things like that, you gotta lean on them, and and vice versa. They're always willing to help you out and do anything they can for you. So yeah, you were growing up with spina
Bifida.
Bifida, yep. And I understand that the NDIS only sort of relatively is still a pretty new scheme. So for those who are out there, I guess what's the NDIS, and what do they aim to do?
Yeah, so the National Disability Insurance Scheme is what it stands for.
Yep.
They've been around for, I think, 6 to 7 years. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, so still pretty new.
Still pretty new, and they're still learning, and they're still like anything new that you've got to work at it to make it better.
Yeah.
But basically, it's designed to give people with a disability a better quality of life.
Yeah.
So I know for a fact, with my life being, again, growing up in the 90s, for me to play sport, I had to travel at least half an hour to get to the only place that allowed people with disabilities to participate back then.
Yeah.
To go to a medical appointment or checkup, I had to go to, my parents had to take me to the Royal Children's.
Yeah.
So the opportunities have been very limited up until probably just recently. Even in recent times, it's gotten better over time.
Yeah.
So the NDIS have stepped in. I believe it was a Labor idea back when they were in power last time, where they brought this in to give us better quality of life and give us more choice and control over our lives. To give you an example, I've got friends who are in their 20s and 30s that after their parents could no longer take care of them, or their parents passed away, or whatever their situations were, when they moved out of home for whatever their situation was, the only place they could go to was a nursing home. So you can imagine being a person with a disability, whatever that was, in their 20s, socialising effectively with 70, 80, 90-year-olds, because that's all they could do. And that's all the society and the government, not government, but the society would allow or would contribute or could contribute. So the NDIS have stepped in, and they're effectively turning people's lives, people with disabilities lives around, if I can say that again. And it's just going to get better and better as the scheme gets a bit older.
Yeah. Because I do also a bit of work in the NDIS, and there's definitely a lot of potential supports that they can access, which is great. You want to help people with disabilities to live their best life as they can and be a part of the community in to be the social life and stuff like that. So it's definitely a great scheme that's going on. Also, a bit, I guess, with anything new, there's sometimes they are, I guess, like the dark side of certain things. What are, in your experiences, what are some of the things that I guess people are doing with the NDIS that might not be what's the word? Let's just say appropriate, or like they might be exploiting it or something like that. Yeah. Yep.
So again, exploitation is the best word to use there. Yeah. But like anything, something new comes in, people are going to find a way to exploit it. And if you look at every aspect of your life, my life, and everyone else's life, there's going to be exploitation somewhere. Yeah. So effectively what's happening is people from all aspects of NDIS, there's someone going to be taking advantage of something. Yeah. At the moment, the fight with the Morrison government, obviously that's changed now, but what we just went through was the NDIS not giving enough funding to people. So therefore, people are naturally challenging it, and they're going to court, they're going to tribunals, and they're paying lawyers to be able to do that. So therefore, the government's come out and said, we're spending way too much on the legal fees, and they don't want to spend the money, naturally, and no one wants to do that. So naturally, and I can't argue with that either, you don't want to spend money on so many lawyers, and whatever the process is there. But the flip side of it, and the argument from a person with a disabilities point of view and the participant's point of view, is we wouldn't need this. We wouldn't need these lawyers if you gave us the right amount of funding in the first place. So that's a fight that's going on at the moment. You know, we hope with the change of government that that'll definitely change. But we can only see what time does and see what happens in the future. I think that's the biggest thing is participants not getting the right funding for themselves, or they've been shortchanged, or they haven't been given enough for whatever the reason is. And then you look at the other side of it from a provider point of view. A lot of people see money. They go. So what basically comes out is they've got like a price list. They call it. I can't remember what it's called at the moment, but they've got the NDIS, the price guideline.
Yep.
The price guidelines.
Correct.
So it's got, you can charge X amount of money. So naturally, what people tend to do is they go, "Oh, I can charge this, so I'm going to up my prices."
Yeah.
You're going to allow me to take it, I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, someone's going to charge you, let's say, $50 an hour for whatever their job is. Then all of a sudden, the NDIS come out, which they're working under, and they say, "Okay, you can charge 80." Okay, so I'm going to charge 80.
Yeah.
Now, I'm actually a participant and a provider.
Yeah.
Luckily for me. I can't blame them at the same time.
Yeah.
Because if they're saying they're allowed to do it, of course they're going to do it. So there needs to be a bit more policing and a bit more control there.
Yeah.
To sort of help balance things out. People, and especially with COVID, people are losing jobs left, right and centre.
That's it.
So that's why a lot of people are coming into the NDIS system as a provider, because it's in their minds it's safe money or it's potentially easy money.
Yeah.
And I get that too.
Yeah.
So there has to be a balancing out of something so that it works both ways.
Yeah.
But with anything new, that's not going to happen straight away. So there's a bit of work to do there.
Yeah, for sure. And like you sort of mentioned, you have a very interesting situation where you are both the participant and the provider. For maybe those who, I guess, the lingo in the NDIS, a participant is someone who receives funding within the NDIS, and the provider is someone who gives services to these participants. What are some of the other, I guess, terminology within the NDIS space? Because I know when I just first started out, I was fucking confused. Like, there's so many sport coordinators, LACs, providers. Are they self-managed? Blah 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 blah. Like, there's a lot of different things going on.
Yep.
So who are like the basic? I guess who are maybe like what are some of the base not basic people, but who are some of the important people within the person's plan that someone would need to know about?
Yep. Okay. So I'll start with the ways you can manage your plan.
Yeah.
So you got 3 ways to manage your plan.
Yeah.
You can be you can be self-managed.
Yeah.
Which means you do everything yourself. You do all the funding yourself. You do all the invoicing yourself. You pay for it yourself through the portal, and you organise everything yourself. So it's almost like you're running your own business in a sense. Then the next step down, or the other way to do it, is being a plan managed person, where you are effectively hiring someone to manage your funds. Kind of like hiring an accountant.
Yeah, sure.
Effectively.
Yeah.
And then there's NDIA managed, which the whole government scheme manages it for you. I don't know too much about that because I don't know many people who are NDIA managed, but there will be some people that are.
Yeah.
But so either going through yourself, your own business, your own accountant, or the government is the 3 ways I like to put it.
Yeah.
You've got more freedom by running your own business, naturally, like I was saying before with the gyms. If you go through an accountant, that's going to be a bit tighter because they're going to work the way they want to work. It's like you're an employee. And then if you're going through the government or the NDIA managed, it's going to be a lot tighter again.
Okay.
But it's also going to depend on the person's capabilities. If the person's got an intellectual disability and they can't physically or mentally or intellectually deal with the money side of things, naturally they're not going to go for the self managed.
Sure.
So they'll go to an NDIA managed, and they trust that. So if you're self-managed like I am, you've got complete control of it yourself, and the money's there for you to use, obviously under the right categories, of course. Now, if you were to go into the next step, there is the self-managed, is the plan managed people. And so what happens is, to get your funding, you go to a meeting, a funding meeting, effectively. A planning meeting is what they call it, sorry. Then you would meet with a local area coordinator, which they'll discuss that with you. They'll help you plan out what you need, discuss what your goals, how much money you can get, and you discuss the whole process with them. Then they send it off to the NDIA, and then they come up with a decision as to how much you get, and then you liaise with your LAC as to how that's going to work.
Yeah.
The next step there, if you are a plan manager, you can get a support coordinator, which effectively is like your accountant, and they run the whole fund for you.
Yeah.
They connect you with the right people, and they connect the dots together, and they do all the funding through. You do all the funding through them. Right. So I've got plan managed people who they'll train with me. I then send off the invoices to their plan managers, and then they pay me through their plans.
Yeah.
So that you've got your support coordinators who are effectively your accountants in a sense, where they do all the work for you, and they source everyone out for you, and they connect the dots.
I see.
And then you've got the NDIA managed people who, again, I've got no real knowledge of that because it's all done through government, so I'm not too sure how that works at this point. Sure.
No, that's right. We'll let's take a break there, and we come back. We'll discuss more about the NDIS, and we'll start talking about your athletic endeavours, and we'll get to the game show.
Yep, beautiful.
All right, and we're back. So Troy was just explaining to us the different people who are within someone's NDIS plan, how things are managed. So the other thing I wanted to ask was, just say I'm someone who just received the plan. How do I go about getting connected with the people I need to see that will help my life, like help me live a better life? Yeah, who do I go to? Do I see them myself? Do I just go randomly contact the physio? How does that all work?
Yep, and that'll depend on how you're managed. So if you're a self-managed, and this is the negative side of things, and then the cons of it. If you're a self-managed person like I am, I have to source them out myself. And naturally, like you're running your own business, you've got to do that in any way you can. So again, in this day and age, social media is an amazing thing, and there's a lot of Facebook groups out there that I'm a part of that I can just type in there and go, look, I need a personal trainer, I need a psychologist, I need a OT, I need a cleaner, for whatever the case is. So if you're self-managed, that's what you have to do. You have to go out there and do it yourself, everything yourself. If you're a plan managed person, that's what your plan manager is there to do, and your support coordinator who's got control of your plan. It's their job to go out there and find someone for you, and say, okay, here's the personal trainer for you, or here's the cleaner, here's the support workers, here's the people that you need to see. Again, if you're NDIA managed, I believe there's like a portal on the website of people who are registered as an NDIS provider, and I effectively think you essentially choose from that list, or you get people given from that list. So again, depending on how you do it, is depending on how much freedom you're going to have with that process.
Yeah, no, that's great. Okay, speaking of, so yeah, that's I guess the participant side of things. You being a provider, you're a personal trainer. You provide personal training services to people with who are living with conditions. What are some of the I guess similarities and differences when you're working with a different population group? You definitely, like you sort of mentioned, like you had to be creative with certain exercises and stuff like that. So what are some of the things that you've picked up along the way to help people out like that?
Yeah, so again, I think my life experience is a big one.
Yeah.
With my disability, for example, I didn't learn to walk till I was probably 4. Again, I can't tell you what number it was. All I can tell you basically is there's a video of my 3-year-old birthday, well, my 3rd birthday, sorry, and I'm literally crawling around everywhere. I can't walk. When I did want to walk, for whatever reason, I literally had someone pick me up and make it look like I was walking, like you would with a 1-year-old type thing. So I didn't start walking until I was probably about 4, maybe later. I couldn't tell you, but so therefore I had to learn to use other ways of getting around. So I'd be crawling around, I'd be using furniture to pull myself up, I'd be doing things like that and just trying to find a way to survive effectively. So my survival instincts would kick in a lot more when I was younger. So therefore, it's something that I didn't really have to learn too much because it was already pre-learnt, if that makes sense. So one of my big strengths is I'm able to think outside the box very, very easily and very quickly. And that's what you need when working with someone with a physical disability or intellectual disability, for that matter. I train a lot of people with physical disabilities at this stage, and actually probably both. So yeah, both people with disabilities, both intellectuals and physicals. So it's just a matter of understanding what the condition is, being able to actually talk to that person, and being willing to ask a hard question. I need to know everything about your disability, and if you don't tell me, then I could do something wrong and I could potentially hurt you, which affects me as a business person. And it gives me a bad rep and everything like that, along with hurting you. So naturally, I need to know everything. So once I know everything, I can sit there and go, okay, cool. You can't do this, but we can do this. And a lot of people in it will focus on the negative. And again, this is my parents. It started from my parents and my family. They've always put me in a position to think about the positive. So I've got a massive thank you to my parents and a lot of credit to my family for putting me in the position that I am, allowing me to become the person that I am. Because then my whole life has been, okay, find a way. Okay, you can't run. Find a way to catch up. You can't do this, find a way. It's always finding a way. So I'm a big believer in the fact that there's always a way to do something, even if it's not the traditional way. One of my favourite sayings is, if it looks stupid, but it works, is it really stupid? And again, that comes down to a personal opinion as well. So again, it's finding a way to do it. There's always a way you can do it. You come up with it. I've got people who are quadriplegics. I've got people who are paraplegics. I've got intellectual disabilities. So like what's the word? It's an auditory processing disorder, for example. And you've just got to find a way to do it.
So yeah, you definitely brought up some interesting points there, because I guess even for me, when first starting out, sometimes it is a bit scary to ask the questions about it, but you definitely need to know those type of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely need to know their condition, stuff like that, how it impacts them and all that. The other thing I was also going to mention is I often find, so for example, when I work with people in that space, sometimes I'm taking them to the gym, and I often find some workers, and I don't think it's their fault or anything, but they don't talk to them. They talk through me to them, if that makes sense. And I feel like as someone who's trying to be a part of the community, and they should be treated like any other person. You should, just if you want to say hi, just say hi to them, not through me. Like, I'm not the one you're saying hi to. Yeah, go say hi to them. For people who are not really familiar with this space, what are some of the things people can do just to help someone with a disability feel a bit more part of the community and sort of interact in their everyday life?
That's a great question, because that I think that's the biggest issue in terms of bridging the gap between able-bodied people like yourself and people with disabilities, especially physicals like myself. And you've got to forget about the disability. There's a massive stigma in conversations as well, like you just brought up. So, for example, in my life, and I had this conversation with Shane Kelton, who runs Power, Strength and Vulnerability, who I think you saw that podcast I did, so shout out to Shane. The question he asked me was around the conversations we're having with people with disability. So if you want to know a question about me, and you were trying to talk about my disability for whatever the question was, the general thing is you would come up to me and go, can I ask you a question, please? Or something like that. Can I ask you a personal question? You probably stutter through it because you're not confident in asking me the question, because you know it's a personal question, and you've probably experienced it before with other people, and they don't like talking about it for their reasons, and that's fine as well. I think we just need to me that's a massive stigma, and we just need to get rid of it. So in that regards, you just got to ask the question. Forget about the disability and just ask them. Yeah. If you were to break your leg, For example, if I haven't seen you in about a year at least, and if you happen to have a knee, do an ACL, for example, and you were on crutches, I would walk up to you and go, "What happened to your knee?" And I'd come straight out and say it. Now, you and I have that relationship, so I can do that as well. But if someone was on crutches, an able-bodied person on crutches, you would just ask them why they're on crutches, because you don't normally see them on crutches. But for whatever reason, when you see someone with a disability, people are very concerned, or they're very they're scared of asking that question, and it's because we're effectively being treated differently for whatever the reason we're being treated differently. So you've got to treat us as if we're an able-bodied person, or just like you. I'm a big believer, and this is something that my parents drilled into me as well when I was younger, most likely. I don't have the proof of it, but I guarantee they would have. Everybody's the same. Everybody's the same. The word disability, if you look it up in the dictionary, means the inability to do something. You haven't got the ability to do something. Everybody, every single person in this world, I don't care who the fuck you are, every person in this world can't do something, or has trouble doing something. Yeah. Some people can't run, some people can't jump, some people can't write neatly. And you can go on about what you can't do. Everyone knows what they can't do. And that's a big focus for people. For whatever reason, that's the society we live in. We always focus on the negative and what we can't do. And so they go, "Oh shit, why can't you do that? Can you walk?" I used to, when I was single especially, I'd go out to parties and whatnot, and I'd have girls come up to me, or even guys or whatever, come up to me, "Can you have sex?" Okay, why can't I? Mm-hmm. Now, my smart ass self would say something stupid. But, just simple things like that. People don't understand. Because they're treating me as someone who's different. But then everybody's different. So that's from, I guess, your point of view, your side of things. So I think we need to take that stigma out of the disability and make it a regular, normal thing, which is what we're doing with, for example, the rainbow community, just as an example. We're becoming more, society's becoming more accepting of them. People with disability are becoming more accepted in the community, because that's how society's gone. We've grown, we've matured, we're getting better in life, which is great. Now, at the same time, you have to look at the other side. This is not all your fault. You're asking a question with a stigma attached to it, but that's not your fault. Not entirely. It takes two to tango, and the person with a disability, being me, needs to take my responsibility in it as well. And this is where, again, the upbringing that I have plays a massive part, and my maturity as well. When I became very accepting and loving of my own condition, which took a while. You come to me with a question about my disability because all you are is curious to learn. And 99% of people are just curious to learn what's going on. So therefore, all I'm doing is educating. People are asking me a question because they want to learn. So it's my responsibility to give them a mature answer. How they react to the answer is completely on them. It's got nothing to do with me. But there's a lot of people out there with disabilities that, for whatever reason, most likely because they haven't come to terms with their disability yet, or their self-love, or whatever the situation is, they tell them to fuck off, or it's none of your fucking business, or they just keep moving on. They don't even acknowledge the person. The amount of times I've had a kid come up to me and say, look at me, staring at me, going, "Why are you like this?" What good does it do for that kid for me to just keep walking past? Because then that kid's going to have trust issues, or he's going to develop something negative from that small interaction, and it means nothing to me because I just walk past it. But you never know what it's doing to that young kid. So while society needs to become more adaptive towards people like myself with disabilities, we need to become more adaptive to the willingness of other people to learn. Some people are being very rude and selfish and disrespectful about it. I know that, and I have experienced that. But there are some people out there that are just willing to learn, and they're trying to bridge the gap. So it works both ways for me.
Yeah. Oh no, that's a great outlook, man. So we're all good here. Yep, all good. Okay. It's all good because I could just cut and edit as well.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
all
sweet.
good. Yeah.
Yep. So so much information about the NDIS, people living with disabilities and stuff like that. That's great takeaways and stuff. So hopefully people have gotten a lot of value and information out of that. I guess just from what you've been telling me, just treat them as if like they're anyone else. Like I think that's all they want. They just want. Yeah, there's no reason why to be treating them any other differently. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As I said, the basic term of disability, the word itself means inability, DIS, and ability. Ability is to do something, doing something.
Yeah.
Everybody can't do something or has trouble doing something, whatever that is. So everybody, as far as I'm concerned, has a disability.
Yeah.
So we need to normalise it.
Yeah.
And then from both sides, disability and able-bodied point of view and society point of view, there's going to be a hell of a lot more harmony in that regards.
Yeah, for sure. So you've been mentioning how your family has sort of shaped you the way sort of the person you are, your sort of mentality and stuff like that, which has led you to be able to do great things. So, for example, successful business, but you're also an athlete. So one of the things when I've learned about you was you were competing in a bodybuilding competition. Speak to me a bit about that. You're one of the first to do something there. So yeah, can you explain that for us there?
Yep. So again, this comes back to my personal training career and how I started. Basically, I was around bodybuilding effectively my whole career because that's what people do in personal training.
Yep.
You got a whole lot of bodybuilders and wanting to improve their physiques and everything like that. And then I got in contact two people that I actually did my course with, one of my courses with, Trish Vigaliers and Dave Alton. Shout out to them if they do listen. Trish she's now a pro bodybuilder.
Yeah. So
basically, what the connection there was, we did the course at the same time. They took it and they ran with it and they excelled massively through it compared to me, especially compared to me. I did fuck all with it at the time. So then I connected back up with them under a mentorship, saying, "Look, I need help." And then through there, again, with Trish being the bodybuilder, I looked at that and going, she's trained a hell of a lot of bodybuilders in her time, plus getting herself on stage. So then I looked at that and I was around it. Now, if you're around 5 doctors, you'll be the 6th. If you're around 5 bums, you'll be the 6th. You're always going to become the people you're around. Yeah. So naturally, I looked at it and I want to do that too. And I knew for a fact that very few people with disabilities did that. There's things in America and there's things overseas and even in Australia where people were doing it. But the main, I guess, bodybuilding, one of the main bodybuilding federations, the ICN, they just brought out their first ever physically challenged division. And I was drawn to it straight away. And then the whole view or the whole image, the whole image of being the first person to ever do it, I clung to that, and I loved it because I looked at it and I'm effectively trailblazing in that regard. So I was the first ever physically challenged seated competitor with the ICN, I believe, in Melbourne. I believe maybe in Australia too, but don't quote me on that one. And I did that in 2017. And naturally, being a personal trainer at the time, it just went hand in hand with me to do something like that. Yeah. But the whole image of I was the first person to do it just drew me straight to it, and I loved it. Yeah. And I can't wait to do it again at some point in the future. Yeah.
So you thinking about competing? Is there any competitions coming up soon?
Look, there'll be competitions all year round, and especially after recovering from COVID, as we all have.
Yep.
Hopefully. There's definitely competitions coming up in the future. I have been contacted from certain people about bodybuilding and whatnot, so it's definitely something to tick off again. It's just a matter of when I start doing it.
Yeah. And yeah, I think, I'm not sure if I mentioned it earlier, but I mentioned to you that I was doing a bit of research prior to this, and you had some pretty impressive photos, mate. You were fucking pretty jacked, bro. You're pretty yoked.
I was getting there slowly.
Yeah, no, it was very impressive. So around that time, did you Were you like on a certain like meal plan, and then you had to go on a cut? Were you training certain? Did you have a certain split? What was your training and nutrition like leading up to your the contest?
So it was actually pretty different to what most people do, or at least what most people would think.
Yeah.
So the general, and look, it's a stigma in the end. The general consensus is, if you want to lose weight, or if you want to get results, whatever they are, I've got to eat less and train more. That's what 99% of people think, if not almost, not 100, but 99%. I did it the complete opposite. So again, my training that I did through a course called Metabolic Precision, it basically taught me to train less and eat more. Yeah, cool. Because the body is designed to eat. Because we use food as fuel. So therefore, what I was doing was, obviously my eating was quite strict, but I trained myself to eat more food than I've ever eaten before. Excuse me, that's the alcohol going. So it got to the point where in my peak week, for those who don't know, peak week is the week before you get on stage. I was effectively eating 3 kilos of I was eating 3 times my body weight I was eating a third of my body weight in that week. Okay. So I weighed at like 59 something or whatever that was, and I effectively had 3 kilos of food a day. So over a week is 21 kilos.
Yeah, right.
Worth of food, give or take. I didn't measure anything out or anything, but it was give or take.
Yeah.
So basically, I drank a hell of a lot of water. I went off alcohol, which obviously I'm not doing at the moment. I went off alcohol completely for that 10-month plan. It was a 10-month prep. And I just trained myself to eat as much food as I possibly could, eating the right foods at the right time. Yeah. Still got my carbs in, still got as much carbs as I could in, because you can't drop carbs. I love food way too much. Yeah. And I was just eating the right foods at the right time, which allowed my body just to really learn how to burn fat.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, man, because I feel like there's a lot of people who really fear food and like they don't want to eat as much. So the fact that you sort of took the opposite approach and you still got great results, that's really awesome, man. So you did that was in 2017, you said? Was that the contest? Yep. And also you are doing you're doing a bit of footy. Yeah. So who are you currently playing for? And let's explain the sport, because I found it very fascinating when you first brought it up to me. So what's the sport? How does it work? You know, the rules and stuff like that. Yeah, could you just give us a bit of an explanation?
Yeah, so I like to explain footy and think of wheelchair football as a combination of 3 different sports.
Yep.
So you've got combination of netball, basketball, and touch football.
Yep.
So it's a contact sport. It's played on a basketball court, so it's always going to be indoors, which means it's going to be weather protected.
Yep.
There's 5 on a court at any one time, like basketball. Yep. A handball, we use a size 5 footy, so a smaller footy compared to AFL. A handball will equivalent to a kick, because sitting in a chair you can't kick. And then an underarm throw will equivalent to a handball. And then naturally you're going to handball the ball through the goals, which will be sitting on the baselines to score, your point, your goals and your behinds.
And are the goals like futsal goals, or what kind of goals are they?
No, so they're goal posts.
Oh, they actually put up the post in the court. Okay,
yeah. So they've got the plastic goal posts.
Yeah, okay.
Like footy.
Yeah, footy, okay, yeah.
And you handball through those goals. Yeah. And it's got the netball side to it where you've got your zones.
Yeah, okay.
So 5 on the court. You've got 2 defenders, 2 forwards, and a centre.
Yeah.
So your defenders can only go in the back 2/3, like netball. Yeah. Your forwards can only go in the forward 2/3, and the forwards are the only ones that can score. Yeah. Again, netball style. And the centres can go wherever they want, but they can't score.
Right. Otherwise, you'd be running from court to court and scoring everything, eh?
Yeah, basically. Not me specifically, but other players would be.
Yeah, sure. That's very interesting. And you actually play for. I don't want to get the club name wrong, but can you explain?
Yeah, well said there. Well pulled back there, I think. So I played with the Hawthorn Footy Club for 4 years.
Yeah.
For the first 4 years of my career, and then this year I went to Collingwood. I was able to move to the Collingwood Football Club.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And they were able to facilitate that change for me, which was awesome. I've been playing so far the whole year with Collingwood this year.
Right. So that's legit names, that's pretty big, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, so it's all affiliated with the AFL Victoria.
Yep.
sponsored the whole thing, and obviously they help run it.
Yeah.
So we're all affiliated with the AFL. So there's 5 clubs involved at the moment.
Yep.
Hopefully we'll get some more clubs in the future.
Yeah.
We've got Collingwood, Hawthorn, St Kilda, Richmond, and Essendon.
Yeah, that's great.
So effectively, your 5 bigger clubs, or your 5, I guess your more richer clubs, or whatever you want to attribute that to. But your five clubs that have joined the league straight away.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Which I believe there might be more coming in the next few years. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So I'm on the Collingwood. I'm on the Collingwood website. I'm an actual player, official Collingwood player.
Yeah,
so,
here we go.
Again, that whole community there, which is all about diversity and inclusion.
Yep.
And the AFL over the last 5 years have done an amazing job with that.
Yep. I already got my clickbait title. Collingwood Athlete comes to the pod. There we go.
Beautiful.
And when did this league start? Is it sort of like a recent thing, or has it been around for quite some time now? Or
no, this is season 5.
Okay, yeah.
So therefore, obviously, it started in 2018.
So you're one of the first.
I was. There's a story behind that, but 18, 19, 20, 21. Yeah, so this is the 5th year. So 2018. Yeah. So again, coming back to my bodybuilding story, I got on stage on Friday the 13th. I got on stage, funnily enough.
Yeah, right.
In October of 2017, which was a week after my birthday. So I started my peak week on my birthday, which was a lot of, which again I just added to the whole prep and the whole temptation of trying to fight, and around about that sort of time, I think after I got off stage, I got a message from a person I knew for years, from AFL Victoria, saying, look, we're starting Wheelchair AFL. Do you want to come down? At the time, my plan, which didn't happen, but my plan was to go back on stage in March or April or May or somewhere there the following year. So I turned around and said, no, I actually don't want to do this, because I was still in the bodybuilding mode and that phase and whatnot. Now, I didn't get on stage a second time for, whatever reason, and I missed out. So then I went to the round 2 game. Apologies, I shouldn't be drinking anyway. So I ended up going to one of the games. I thought, oh shit, all right, I didn't get on stage, I fucked that up. And I lost the opportunity to play footy. So then I went and actually watched the game. I ran 1 or round 2 or whatever that was up at the Burundara Sporting Complex in Doncaster. Baldwin North. And I looked at the game and I've gone, oh fuck, what have I done? I love this. I've grown up with footy all my life, watching it. I love footy. What have I done? So luckily I knew quite a few people who played, and the people who all ran the joint and ran the organisation and competition. So I said, put me in, I want in. Yeah. So luckily at the time they said, well, you're lucky because Hawthorn need players. At the time they didn't have enough players, or I think 1 or 2 players had to pull out for medical reasons, or whatever happened there. So they said, all right, here's the captain. They introduced me to the captain, who I'd played wheelchair basketball with previously. So I knew of him already, which helped. And I started training with them straight away, effectively 3 days later, which was awesome. So they threw me straight in, and I adapted pretty well. And then luckily for me, they had a mid-season draft, which wasn't happening in the AFL at that time, funnily enough. I had the mid-season draft, and then I was lucky enough to get picked up by Hawthorn through there. And then, the rest is history. So, yeah, it's a funny story that I said no straight away, even though I love AFL.
Yeah, right. Who's your favourite team in the footy?
I'm a North Melbourne supporter.
Right.
At the moment, they're not going great.
Yeah.
But always love North Melbourne.
Yeah.
And hopefully eventually they come into the league, and I may play for them in the future. You never know.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So I always grew up as a North Melbourne supporter. My whole family were massive on footy. Yeah. Massive on footy. So I had the footy background behind me. I had the footy atmosphere behind me. I had the knowledge, I had all that sort of stuff. And luckily for me, the game of wheelchair football was pretty similar to wheelchair basketball, which I've played for 20 years.
Okay, yeah, right. I didn't know that. Yeah.
And the skills are transferable. Yeah. Except using a round ball, you've got to use an oval ball or football. Yep. Which has its differences. Yep. So luckily, I was able to adapt pretty quickly in that regards.
Yeah. For sure. And I guess that's being a good athlete you are. Definitely you adapted and you did pretty well. Then the final question I have in regards to that the league is how many rounds do you have, and like what period of the year are you playing?
Yeah, so I believe they started on. I think they started with 8. So no, they started with 10 rounds a year.
Yeah. Okay.
So 10 rounds a year with 5 teams. Effectively, what you do is you play each other twice, like they effectively do in the AFL, and then you have 2 buys. 2 buys per team.
Yep.
That's been the system for the last 4 years. Even with COVID, that they were really good with us. We had to push our season back, but they still got a 2 years out.
Yeah.
Over the last 2 years, which has been amazing.
Yeah.
Which shows their priorities in willing to give us that time, which I'm extremely thankful for. This year they've increased it. I think they got feedback saying we want to play more. And still with the 5 teams in the league, they've given us, effectively, we're playing each other 3 times.
Yeah, okay.
So I think there's, off the top of my head, I think there's 13 rounds this year.
Yeah.
So therefore, we play each other 3 times each, and with the 3 buys as well. So it'll be roughly the 13-round season plus finals.
Yeah, that's definitely a pretty decent season there. All right, we're just going to have a break, and then when we come back, we're going to go get into the game show segment. Okay, we're back from the break. Before we go into the final segment of this podcast or show, the other thing I wanted to ask you was, so you've been in the industry for ages, you've been training, building muscle, stuff like that. Who are some of the influences or people you look up to?
As I mentioned before, Trish Fugilies and Dave Alton, they had a big influence on me, especially building up my business and whatnot. I was a big fan of Kurt Fernley. Again, living with a disability, he was one of my idols that I followed for quite a while. Who, obviously, for those that don't know, is a Paralympic gold medalist. Yeah. And an Australian legend in the athletic field. They were big ones. Obviously, influences through my parents and influences through family that have taught me a hell of a lot as well. And one of the sort of transitions that I've sort of made, especially in the last 12 months, is you've got to idolise yourself. You've got to appreciate yourself. You've got to respect everything that you've gone through as well. So I've actually gone the last little while. I've gone away from idolising other people. Call it selfish, call it what you want, and just start to realise that, hang on, you should be your own idol, type thing. But there's everybody I come into contact with, including yourself, has something to talk, has something to teach, something to learn from. So look, I take everything from everybody that I talk to. I'll always take something from someone, and everyone's there to show you to something, to give you some sort of advice or give you some sort of life experience where you can definitely appreciate. So look, everyone to me is on a even playing field, and you've got to take it as it comes at the same time.
Yeah. No, I don't think that's selfish at all, mate, because look, you've gone through so much in the industry, very successful. You're making I'm not going to drop numbers or anything, but you're doing really well, mate. So, no, you're definitely an inspiration to me. So you're doing really well, especially because, within PT, that people get out of the field like pretty quickly. Like the turnover rate's pretty crazy. So
yeah, I think it's like 3 months. Yeah. The average lifespan of a PT these days.
Yeah. So you've stuck around. You've done great things. You even carved out a niche for yourself. So yeah, I don't think that's selfish at all, man. You're doing really well. So no, congrats to you. You're really well done. All right, so we're gonna go to the game show segment now. Not sure what to call this this particular part of the game, but for no particular reason, we're gonna continue the theme of Pokemon. So obviously you played a bit of Pokemon back in the days. Yep, for sure.
I watched it. Again, I grew up in the 90s, so I watched it from season 1 up until I don't watch it these days, but I know I love it. I know all about it. Funnily enough, whenever a game comes out, I've got to get it. I'll buy it.
Yeah, still avid game player. You still play
absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Stuff like that from your childhood don't go away.
No, so this is right up my alley.
Yeah, no, for sure. So you're definitely familiar with Pokemon. I guess when you start off, you pick a Pokemon. So that was the last episode. Someone picked a Pokemon, and then you go train your Pokemon, and you go to different gyms to earn a badge.
Yep.
So for this game here, you're going to have to name the exercise that comes on the screen to get a badge. So you can go to different gyms.
Yep.
The first gym you're going to is Scott Herman's gym.
Yep.
Scott Herman from YouTube. If anyone was into YouTube fitness, he was definitely one of the big ones back in the day. Okay. So like in Pokemon, I guess the bosses or the people you play against get harder and harder.
Yeah.
So this is the first gym, Scott Herman's gym. All right, name this exercise for me, Troy.
That is a bench press.
Yep, easy. First badge. Given. All right, out of Scott Herman's gym. That was too easy. Next gym. So we're heading to Mike Boyle's gym.
That's Brock's gym there for Pokemon.
Yeah.
For Pokemon players, that's Brock's gym.
Oh, I don't even remember that. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so Mike Boyle, one of the grandfathers of strength and conditioning. Name this exercise here for me. Maybe don't mind the kettlebells.
Shit. That's a modified lunge. That is. I do this exercise with my clients too, and all of a sudden the bloody name's just gone out of my head.
Yeah, no, it's probably a couple of drinks there.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's probably the alcohol too. That's obviously a modified lunge on the bench with the kettlebells. It is a. The thing's just gone out of my head. I actually use it with my clients too. That's the embarrassing part.
Don't send them this episode.
Yeah, exactly right. It's a Bulgarian split squat.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, no, second badge.
I thought Romanian for some reason,
Yeah,
but no,
you got it. Perfect.
Yeah, no.
I was ready to accept modified lunge, which is pretty much what it is, but Bulgarian split squat, also known as rear foot elevated split squat. All right, cool. Oh, I should have done this. This is I haven't. I don't think I've thought this through.
The joys of a new invention, mate. You got the alcohol part right there. That's what I love.
What I'm gonna do is quickly take a break. I'm gonna download all the videos. I'm not thinking straight yet, so let's go on a break. All right, and we're back. Bit of technical difficulties there. I've got it sorted now.
More time to drink though. So
more time to drink. No, that's it.
I'll give you that one. There we go.
Cheers. Okay, so we went to the first gym, Scott Herman's gym, and then we went to Mike Boyle's gym, the Bulgarian split squat. Okay,
which was the water gym?
You definitely have been playing Pokemon back in the days for sure. Okay. Oh, shut up. The video's giving all the answers. All right. Name this exercise here, Troy.
That's a side plank. For me, I'd be calling that an elevated side plank.
Yeah, which is pretty much what it is. So that's correct there. The name for it is the other name is Copenhagen plank.
No, there you go.
Yeah.
No idea. Had no idea.
But that's pretty much what it is. It is an elevated side plank. So third badge, all good. Let's go on to the next one.
That's Lieutenant Surge. How I'm remembering this, I don't know, but I think.
Oh, you actually know this person in the video?
Yeah, no, the Pokemon gym.
Oh, right.
I couldn't tell you from now on, I don't think.
Yeah. All right, name this exercise.
That's an explosive push-up, that's all I can tell you. I can't give you a proper name, it's an explosive push-up.
I don't know it either. I just put it in there just because it gets harder and harder. So that's, explosive push-up, good enough. I like that.
Plyometric push-up.
Yep. So there we go. Fourth badge.
Were you drinking when you came up with that exercise?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, okay.
Definitely. All right. Sorry, that's supposed to be the fifth gym. We accidentally visited the fifth gym. We're going to go back to the fourth. Maybe not that one, sorry. Whoops. This one here.
So the start of that is really weird. I've never seen that actually happen before.
Yeah.
But effectively, that's a front squash.
Yeah.
Squash. Front
squat. Yeah. Which it's pretty much a front squat. They've
snatched it. Obviously, they've done a snatch at the start. But
yeah. It's a very trendy exercise at the moment. It's called a Zercher, but that's exactly what you said. Yeah, it's like a front squat. All right. So now we're heading to the last. Oh shit! They probably picked that up, but someone's definitely doing a few burnouts out there.
We are in dandy.
Classic. Okay. So this is the final boss. Oh, sorry, I can help you. Name this one for me. The name might be there, but just name this one just for some gigs. What would you name that exercise?
I couldn't give you a name, but basically that's it's like a canoe row type. It's like a canoe. The action's like a canoe row, but you've got weights in your hand. Yeah. I couldn't tell you what the actual name is of that one.
I couldn't either.
But it's got the Bulgarian stance at the same time with the foot on the back, up on the bench there too. So
yeah.
Look, if that was me, I'd be calling that a Bulgarian row type sort of.
Yeah.
Modification type thing.
No, that's it. No, that's it, mate. So
that's bullshit. If you can't name it, well, how the fuck am I supposed to name it?
No, I can't name it either. So that's Dr. Joel Seedman's gym. Very interesting character. Here's the bonus gym. We're gonna go to bonus round. I'll get you to look away for a bit, Troy.
Yep.
All right, name this exercise here. Bonus gym for an extra badge.
Okay, so he's using a hex bar. It's a hex bar deadlift, right? But he's got the barbell on his shoulders at the same time. So he's doing. It's a hex bar deadlift effectively, but he's got the barbell there to signal a barbell squat at the same time. So barbell hex bar deadlift type thing. Like fuck.
That's it. No, I'll take that. So yeah, Dr. Joel Seedman's gym again. There we go. All right.
How are they fucking doctors, mate? Doing that exercise.
Yeah, on Instagram, everyone's a doctor. All right. So, all right, you collected all your badges. Now we're going to go to the rapid fire section.
Elite Four?
Sorry?
Elite Four?
Oh, Elite Four? No, I don't know what it is. You're questioning me.
Some Pokemon fan you are.
So, rapid fire. I'll just... Nothing will come up on the screen here. Just going to ask you questions, and I want you... They're basically this or that questions.
Yep.
So whatever comes to your mind first, just go at it. Okay, and you can pick. Feel free to explain if you want to, but I'll give you 15 questions, okay?
Yep.
All right. European cars or Japanese cars?
European.
Straight shots or mixers drinks?
Well, mixers.
Mixers, yeah.
Canadian
There we
cars,
go. Cheers, mate. Monster or Red Bull?
Neither.
Neither. Oh. Collingwood or Hawthorn?
It's got to be Collingwood.
Would you rather be really lean or be really big, massive, strong, but you're bulky? So on the
Lean.
Be real lean. Puma or New Balance?
Puma.
Foot Locker or JD Sports?
JD.
Would you rather fight a gorilla or a lion?
I'd fight a lion.
Yeah.
But
Lion?
having said that, if anything, I'd fight an alligator. If I had to choose.
Yeah, for me, I'm just trying to run away, so I'm not gonna.
No, so again, there's a whole story behind that. But an alligator, the best time to fight one is when they're fed.
Okay, yeah.
After they eat, they're satisfied. They go to sleep.
Yeah, right.
And they like fall into a trance. So if you ever fight one, you fight one after they've eaten.
You already got one up.
They will not fight back.
I did not know that. Right. Steve Irwin here? Or?
No, actually, Eric Thomas, but that's where I hired it from. He's the #1 motivational speaker in the world. But
there we go.
I don't know where he heard it from.
Yeah, probably Steve Irwin.
Yeah, possibly, yeah.
Squat, bench, or deadlift?
Oh, bench press.
Bench press. Would you rather have a super rich but annoying client, so a well-playing client, but they piss you off, or a client that's a bit, he sees you every now and then, but they're the best client ever?
The second one, best client ever.
Yeah. Nothing but a good. Always good to have like a good experience with people you're working with, for sure.
And it's quality over quantity.
Yeah. That's it. Morning workout or night workout?
Morning.
Would you rather go bungee jumping or deep water scuba diving?
Bungee jumping.
Bungee jumping.
can't swim, can't jump, but I'll take the bungee jumping.
Yeah, bungee jumping. Would you rather get kicked in the nuts, or would you rather jab your toe on the door?
Oh, jab your toe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Part of my disability, I can't feel my toe, so that's fine.
Oh, I didn't think that through.
I'll take that.
Oh, I didn't think that through. Would you rather have 40,000 in cash or 1 Bitcoin, but you can't sell it and go buy it? So you either get the cash or you get the Bitcoin.
40,000 in cash, you can do more with that than the Bitcoin.
Yep.
Effectively.
Last one: LeBron James or Kobe Bryant?
Oh, Bryant, Kobe,
Yep.
absolutely.
Yep. Rest in peace. All right, Troy. Thanks for coming on, mate. Such a pleasure catching up, talking to you again. Lots of gems that Troy dropped there. So look out for this episode over the next coming week. But thanks again for jumping on and giving your time, Troy.
Thanks a lot, son. Thanks for the opportunity. And good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you too, mate.